Thank you for tuning in. You're with the Chronicle News. My name is Ben Mandiel, and we are sitting down with City Council member candidate Karen Griego, who will resit through affirmation this year. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I guess just to start, what made you want to run for City Council again?
Well, because now I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing. City staff has done a real good job educating me, and the experience I had for the last 4 years is going to prove very helpful for the next 4 years. So I'm excited about changes. You know, this is my hometown. I've been here forever, and I don't want to be a person that sits and complains. I want to actually do something to help, if I can.
What kind of experience that you picked up in the last 4 years do you hope to bring forward in the next 4 years?
Well, I guess I should start from the beginning. I had a lot of experience prior to my first term because I've been involved in a lot of civic organizations and a lot of not-for-profit organizations. So I knew I had the basic skills to be able to learn what to do. What I've learned is just the stuff that other people feel that are real boring, the procedures, the correct procedures, when to talk, when not to talk, what things I can do, what things I can't do, what's in my purview and what isn't. And I learned one really important thing, and that is anybody that comes before council, anybody that asks me a question, I have to respect that person and I have to respect their question. So basically it's taught me not humility, but good temperament. I have a great temperament for being on city government because I don't get rattled very much. But if I do, you guys better watch out. Run for the door.
And I guess kind of what is your vision of what you hope City Council can accomplish in your next term?
Well, what I did to begin with when I made my decision to do this again, I had a motto, and the motto was preserving the past while preparing for the future. And that is basically, in a nutshell, what I want to do. I think historic preservation is very important to downtown Trinidad. I mean, you know, for those of us that have been here all our lives, we take those beautiful buildings for granted. And that has drawn people to downtown Trinidad. And I think we need to continue on that road with historic preservation, absolutely. It's not cheap, but in the long run, it's going to work out for. Planning our future, that's the hard part. Historic preservation is easy. The hard part is trying to say, okay, we have this amount in our budget. We're growing. If you remember the other night at the council meeting, our budget from last year to this year has grown $4 million. So we have to make sure that as those expenditures go out, the income is coming in and that we don't over-exceed. We're starting to add staff, and anybody that knows about a business knows that employees are one of the most expensive line items that you have. So that's what we're looking for.
And obviously housing is a major concern here, and it's been talked about in City Council during this last term. What are some ideas you have on how the city could work to improve housing?
Gee, I'm glad you asked that, because I didn't get asked that at the Meet the Candidates night. But what's happened to Trinidad was like a triple storm, sort of speak. Trinidad got popular, Airbnbs got popular, and gentrification got popular, all at the same time. So we have an imbalance, as everybody knows. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But those houses within the median range of $120,000 to $200,000 are non-existent in our market. Okay, so that's where that's what, we would consider by today's standards affordable housing. Okay, so the first thing, I know short-term rentals, I'm not for or against them, but I think they need to be regulated. Not to the point where we would encumber their existence, but just to know where they're at. Anybody that works or lives in a residential area in Trinidad knows that you don't want to be the only house on the block that is used for private residence and all the rest of them are Airbnbs. So I've been trying to talk council and staff into doing a licensing system where we could see where those houses are at and make sure if there's 2 on a block, we don't allow 2 more, okay? We want that good combination of residential and short-term. Another thing, and I've already talked to Sky Tallman about this, he showed me some graphics that he had. It's been my contention. I guess you have to know the history of Trinidad, but up to maybe a year and a half ago, there wasn't a demand for these houses. So a lot of houses are owned by a family that have inherited these houses. They sit there vacant. They're not producing income. They're not producing housing for people that need them. So Sky is starting to go into the system and figure out where these houses are at, approach the owners who own them, and ask them, okay, now there's probably some people that don't know what's going on with housing in Trinidad, you know, and I think that would be a good idea to identify these houses and ask the owners, good time to sell it, or renovate it and rent it, or something along that nature. And what I think the next important thing on housing is the city's got to figure out where a good development would be for a new housing development. There's been a lot of talk about Cougar Canyon, but if any of you out there have ever been involved in a lawsuit or any kind of legal situation where you have to go through and try and get property or settle a legal affair, it takes years and it takes a lot of money. I'm saying instead of investing that time and money into Cougar Canyon, let's first, I'm not saying Cougar Canyon wouldn't be a good idea, but let's first review what options we have out there for small parcels of land that are adjacent to the city, that we can use some money that we call it in incentive. I want to use that money to try and help get grant money to put the infrastructure in, the sewer, the water, the gas, and utilities in these areas where we can do a brand new build. There's a couple of potentials. I'm not aware of what's stopping people from developing these areas, but I think it deserves looking into.
Okay. And I guess, what are your thoughts on infrastructure in general? Is there any aspects of infrastructure in the city, in terms of sewer, water, gas, power, and light, that you think the city council should work to address in the next 4 years or even the next 1 to 2 years?
Well, that's an ongoing issue that we talk about all the time. What people do not understand about finances within the city, if all the utilities, water, gas, power and light, and sewer are all enterprise funds. So they have to make it or break it on their own. There's not enough money in those funds to improve the infrastructure, the sewer, the gas, and all the utilities we're talking about. So that process, in order to get that done, you have to apply for grants, federal grants mostly, to get that money to improve infrastructure. And staff works on that constantly. As a matter of fact, we were just told Monday night, that we're going from a part-time grant writer to a full-time grant writer.
How do you think that will improve the city?
it will improve because we have somebody that works 8 hours a day to track these grants, especially regarding utilities, to get these grants within the city budget so we can improve the existing structure. You know, I always say the best thing about Trinidad and the worst thing about Trinidad is it's old. You know, the buildings are beautiful, but underneath the buildings are 100-year-old sewer lines and water lines. If you've noticed, last year I can't remember the proper term, it's called snaking. So it was a more affordable way to improve I think it was the sewer system. What they do is they go into because all the sewer lines are clay. So you just touch that 100-year-old clay. You touch that and it almost disintegrates. So what the city did, used some marijuana money, I believe, to go in and snake those lines, put a liner in the clay liner so that we'd have more life out of those lines. It's way more inexpensive. No, I'm talking crazy, but way more inexpensive to do it that way.
How do you see the city increasing business or development here? You know, some candidates have said, you know, improving infrastructure and housing. I guess how can we attract more business to diversify our economy in the city?
Well, we're sitting in a building that used to be the J.C. Penney building, so I have a history. I'm fourth generation, but this was one of many corporate stores that were housed in downtown Trinidad. In the late 60s, early 70s, I'll get to your point, trust me. But corporate America left small town USA. We're going to appeal to the masses, and you small guys are by yourself. So the roots of this community, besides the Walmart and the grocery store that are national companies, it's small businesses like the Chronicle News, Griego Insurance, all the little small businesses downtown that have sustained this community for, I'd say, the better of 30 to 50 years. But if you recall, because you're pretty savvy about what's going on council, we're having a hard time trying to find housing for 55 miners. We can't put a factory in if we don't solve the first problem of housing. We're not going to get that in. We're not going to get that in here. I do, however, believe, and I'll tell you why. I think recreation, not necessarily, it's not a manufacturing company, but it is an industry that for sure this community can live from. I mean, for years, especially those of us in business, have always figured out how do we get those people off the interstate, because they're either going to Denver to the north or Santa Fe to the south. What does Trinidad offer these people that will draw them off the highway to spend money in Trinidad? And when I saw the response from the Rad Dirt Fest, I said, bingo, that's what it is. I mean, you talk to people that participated in that, they thought they had died and gone to heaven when they came to Trinidad. And I think other companies that do that, recreation, for-profit companies, I think you're going to see a lot of that. And our really saving grace is Fisher's Peak. I think you're going to get a lot of residual businesses from there. So maybe down the line, you got to crawl before you walk kind of thing. And maybe down the line, we'll be in a position to do manufacturing. But I think the foundation has to be built first before you can build a house.
Mm-hmm. I guess, how do you see yourself communicating with the public? I'm going to have to read that.
Just the transparency one you're thinking of?
Yeah. So we're kind of, sorry.
That's
Good thing
okay.
you can edit this down.
That's okay.
Don't worry, got plenty of tape.
Yeah.
We're good.
So how do you see yourself communicating with people, and do you think that you're an effective communicator with the general public?
Well,
And I guess in what ways?
okay. It's a good question. In order to communicate with somebody, somebody's got to talk, and then somebody's got to respond. Everybody knows where I'm at. I'm down on Commercial Street, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. My phone number at home is listed, and I tell people, if you email me or ask a question, I have never not replied to somebody. But the thing is, Benjamin, people have to tell me what they're concerned about. They have to contact me. I'm not going to, that's the only way it works. If you're concerned about something, come to me and we'll talk about it. You might have a better idea than what we're doing on city council, but it has to be a two-way communication. The city is really good about getting our meetings out there. We do the Zoom meetings. Anybody that wants to call in or attend our meeting via Zoom, you can do that. And even there's a little chat area there. If you have something that you want to ask, the city clerk will read it and tell us somebody has a question. So I wish more people would call me.
Why do you think it's important to have communication between the city and its residents?
Because, like we were talking with Mr. Loudon earlier, people do not truly understand the workings of the city government. So they come to me sometimes with really crazy not ideas, but concerns. I said, did you know this is the way this works? In order to understand what's going on, you have to have knowledge of how the system works. Are we perfect? Oh no, we're not perfect. But if I tell you what's going on, you have a better understanding. And then therefore you can be more productive in this team that we're called the City of Trinidad.
Is there anything we haven't asked you that you think you want people to know about your history on council, your history in town, your vision moving forward as you sit for another 4 years?
No, I think what people maybe should know, the reason why, I'm the Joe Biden of municipal government. I waited until I was 68 years old to run for a political office, which is really truthfully past my prime, but I was so concerned because I saw 4 years ago that Trinidad was progressing. It's not the same old Trinidad anymore. I see the downtown getting more vibrant as the days go by. You get all those small shops on Commercial. There were some days that I'd sit in my office and think, when is Commercial Street going to die? Because that's the way it felt. Every business from the river up to maybe Church or Convent Street right there was not maybe but one or two operable businesses within that area. And I said, we're losing Commercial Street. And it's made a turnaround, and I was so afraid that at that point, if the wrong people got onto council that didn't have the foresight to continue on with that project, it would stop. And I've ridden that roller coaster so many times, Benjamin. I mean, we're doing well, and then we're not doing well, and then we're doing well, and we're not doing well. I see more now within the past 3 or 4 years where it's steady, and it's steady going up. And I just want to make sure that whatever talents I have, whatever treasures I have, I can work toward the common good for the community of Trinidad. This town has so many things to offer. What really tickles my heart is, especially during the summer tourist season, I can't believe the number of people that are walking in the streets. That never happened before. Commercial Street was like no man's land at one time, and to see people actually sitting there, and there's a building category for me that's it's not in the best shape, but it's a very beautiful old building. They sit and take pictures of it, and I'm thinking, well, I never really looked at that building for the beauty that it has, and I think, long story short, that's why I'm here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope you learned something.